transmissions detected.
Kill them all.
Hello my friends. Today I document what's referred to as dragon bone. It's been used in ancient Chinese medicines and elixirs for thousands of years, thought to have healing properties. In our time we call these dragons, of course, dinosaurs. Now recently, dinosaur bones have been found with soft tissue still intact, red blood cells, all of it, as if it's only been a short time since their death, not millions of years. Kind of makes you wonder, and well, that's why they're in medieval records, because they were here. It would explain their lack of decomposition and deterioration if they're so old, you know. Knowing something isn't quite right with the explanations, you have to ask, what if they really did have some sort of medicinal quality? The black market on these bones is still a very huge problem today in China. And in ancient times, the bones and skeletons of these animals could be found quite easily, without any effort whatsoever, like just after a rain. It's pretty weird. Paid well too, and it still does. But when researching all this, it got crazy, and well, this is what I found. So taking their word on everything, the reason for people to collect these bones of dragons was because they were special. Each one had its own, like, poison and antidote type of thing going. Depending on what dragon or dinosaur you came across, depending on what you could possibly face or get from it. They were all very smart, allegedly, very smart, and not animals we think of them. They were different from one to the next, very different. Some were extremely grumpy, and some weren't. Some were extremely strong or fast, lived in water, some underground, cold, hot, and so on. And of course, we know some of them ate plants and some ate meat. Well, why be so exact, you might ask? And I thought myself, yeah, why would they lie about that? Like, you're just going overboard when you start telling us what they ate, and some of them were nice and some of them were smart. Like, that's just ridiculous. And then you get to where some had scales, but most of them did not. Well, that's kind of obvious, isn't it? You see, another exact thing to point out for no reason whatsoever if you're just lying. But anyway, I digress. The knowledge of them and who had spawned them and where each one came from went down from generation to generation. It was handed down to the shamans and the priests. So basically, these animals represented the power and strength that they shone to the world in their day. Humans saw it, okay? And if allegedly, if the stories are true, it was the scary time to have been, a person. I mean, this towering, scaled reptile thing with, sharp teeth and really agile, but strong as 10 elephants. Whoa. And that's probably how they move giant stones. Like the Flintstones showed us. They just use big brontosaurus or something, dinosaurs in the quarries, and, But the dragons themselves, I found out, weren't dinosaurs. See, they were in a category, of their own. Sure, they were what we consider dinosaur, but they were perhaps altered flesh, and not what had been here the whole time, not what the Creator had made. Allegedly, the Creator made the big beasts. He did not make the huge, flesh-eating, man-eating reptiles. That's how I took it. Then I learned there were three things going on at once. The first was there were regular dinosaurs, and those were called the great beasts in ancient times. They had no scales. That was their pets. That was the dinosaurs. That was what we know of them. The name dragon was said to be for the dragon, as we know it too, right, from medieval times, right? They didn't call a brontosaurus a dragon back in the day. More like a T-Rex would have been a dragon. I'm not saying that's what it was, but he was a great scaled beast. And those were the ones that just pretty much, they had no conscience, no nothing, right? Just eating machines. So then I found out there were the dragon men themselves. Some might say reptilian, whatever, right? but it's the ones who created the scaled reptiles. They were the first of the ancestral bloodline to the emperor himself. Both were worshipped, the animal and the humanoid, but the humanoid was said to be immortal. Now they believed the dragons, the humanoid one, could shift between realms, and it was like a watcher. They actually say that it watched us. Well, here's where it got crazy. In their Chinese culture, the stories of dragons coming down and mating with humans is common. They created powerful bloodlines. The ancient emperors are called sons of dragons. Imagine that. The royal dragon bloodline supposedly gave them the divine right to rule, and some people today still trace their families back to that mythical lineage. Weird, right? And what I gathered out of it when reading these human hybrid legends in ancient China here, the idea wasn't just, oh, dragons are cool. No. The dragon bloodline is what made you a king. You couldn't be a king unless you had a certain bloodline, which we pretty much know that. The way the story was made into fantasy is when people believed that the reptile dragons, the actual animals, could transform into human form. And they said, oh, they could live among people looking like a human. But when you dig into it, the other stories say the original had human heads and serpent or dragon bodies. And when they took a liking to someone, they could just simply transform into a human, and they could mate. Now, the kids, they were given divine gifts. They would have been, the demigods, right? The men of old, the men of renown, because they had wisdom, power, beauty. But most important, it gave them the right to rule, to have their father being who he was. I mean, it sounded like the people who wanted to be like the Most High, right? Yeah. So, one of the most legendary figures I found was the Yellow Emperor. Now, we're talking about 2697 BC. So, what, 4,500 years ago? Almost 5,000 years ago? But he was rumored to be part dragon himself. One of those hybrids. Not like, we just deifying him. No, straight up. Half and half, like a watcher. He was said to ride around on a chariot pulled by dragons or great scaled beasts. And when he died, he didn't just pass away. He ascended into heavens on a dragon's back, but he left his mortal body behind. And see, that's total celestial, fallen angel dragon stuff there. That's that story. And then this mother and father dragon people, both were described as having human heads but serpent or dragon bodies, and they were watchers. They would oversee us. They taught us to do things. It says Nuwa created humans from clay, and when the sky was literally broken by something, she melted down 5 colored stones to patch the heavens and save the world. They taught humans to fish, to hunt. They created language. I mean, that's just the same story. Emperor Yan, another legendary figure, he was the divine farmer. He taught people agriculture, the cutting of roots, medicine. It sounds just like the fallen angels, doesn't it? Each one taught us something. But Emperor Yan is the flame emperor, associated with the dragon. He has dragon features, supernatural abilities, a demigod. But the belief was these dragon-blooded rulers weren't just, good leaders. They were actually chosen by, heavenly power, tied directly to them. As for the scaled reptiles, allegedly, the dragon kings made them for their protection. It was to guard their treasures. Sort of a dog and lizard form, I take it. Maybe they messed with their DNA. Something. Who knows? And that's pretty much, when they defiled the world, well, that's probably what they made. But why would ancient people tell these stories? I mean, what, having dragon blood just is cool? That's ridiculous. Telling those stories and lying like that just, to me, makes zero sense. The entire world is going to lie about the same thing? You see, it gave them divine authority to rule. And when these people, they were part dragon, right? Nobody checked them either. Like, it's pretty weird. In ancient times in China, it was, I gotta say, it's a pretty wild story. But what if they weren't just myths? What if we take it at face value? What if dragons, maybe some sort of advanced ancient species, reptilian beings, whoever they were, what if they actually did walk amongst us humans a long time ago? And they left their mark on the DNA pool. That's why we always get pricked and they want to see, oh, what kind of blood do you have the moment your kid comes out, you know? They built the ancient tech, all the stories, you know, you couldn't get rid of all of them. But now, now all we have left, you know, are the bones of those things. Everything that walked around in that day, the whispers in the scrolls, I mean, we laugh at them. We believe they're lies and just for children. I mean, if you think about it, isn't it weird? They say to us, there's no way that you coexisted with dinosaurs. It's because we're separated by millions of years, they say. Well, why do they find the dinosaurs still have soft tissue? Couldn't have been millions of years then, right? Why does Great Britain have the same story that the sultans in, you know, in the Middle East have? Separated by thousands of years too. Why? The legends were made up. There's no truth in them. Just ignore the records and accounts in history. Ignore the historians. Ignore the travelers, the explorers, all the maps. They were all insane. But it'd be funny, right? I mean, could you ever imagine, you know, the elite that secretly rule the world? Yeah. Imagine if, like, David Icke is actually right. I would just die inside if he was, you know. The ones in the museums, those skeletons, the scary looking dragons and beasties, you know. Yeah. Those are real. Could it be just like so in your face? But we believe the nonsense story that throws us off the trail of the true history, you know, the Darwinism, the godless, crazy, billions of years came from a, you know, a single-celled organism. Yeah, well, just sitting right in plain sight, and they just probably laugh at us every day. We're so silly. But yeah, you know, that's just what I wanted to say. Looking into every culture, all these ancient cultures, it's pretty much a given that, well, somebody's lying through their teeth. Nothing ever makes sense when I check on it. No one ever seems to be telling the truth. There's too much information, too many hands in the cookie jar telling you everything that they have to tell you. You know, it's like everyone's a professional on that subject. So you end up getting, you know, so many different claims, and then, oh, that person's lying. This has been fact checked. That's not true. This is true. What do, you know? But when you go back on those really ancient stories, it all seems like we knew what was up. We just somehow, some way, if you've ever watched Peter Pan, the old one, or Hook, you know, when Peter Pan gets over there where all the kids are at, the kids try to pray, and they don't know the words. They know what to do, but they don't know the words, right? That's what it seems like history is to me. They kind of know what happened. They just don't know the names and exactly how to tell you how it happened, so that this, you know, the crazy stuff gets mixed in it with it, you know, and that's what I see. I'm gonna shut up. My love to you all. I'm Wild Dog, and I am out of here.
Sorry.